Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we are tackling a topic that directly impacts almost every single one of us, usually without us even realizing it. We are putting a super common yet deeply confusing practice on our pharmacy shelves right under the microscope. Get ready because we are doing a deep dive into the fascinating and honestly sometimes perilous world of pharmaceutical brand name extensions.
Imagine this for a second. It's late, you've got a pounding headache, a terrible cough, and you're just standing there under the harsh fluorescent lights of your local pharmacy. You're exhausted, you're feeling awful, and you really just want some relief. So you reach for that brightly colored box you've trusted for years, right? You buy it, you take it, and later on, you realize it didn't actually work. Or even worse, you feel some weird side effect. Why? Well, because you literally bought an entirely different medication than you thought you did. Okay, let's dive into this.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the drug name game. Second, what are brand extensions? Third, the risk of confusion. Fourth, under the regulatory scanner. And finally, what it means for you. We are going to fully decode both the marketing logic behind this and the regulatory pushback.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the drug name game. Think about it. Brand loyalty in the pharmaceutical world is incredibly powerful. It's really not like buying a new pair of shoes. It's built on a very deep foundation of health, relief, and trust. When we're sick, our cognitive load is heavy. We don't want to stand there reading dense medical labels, we just want a shortcut to feeling better. So our brains naturally rely heavily on familiar brand names. We see the logo, we remember it worked last time, and we make a quick choice, assuming it's the safe choice.
To put this into perspective, think about the difference between a movie sequel and a medication mix-up. If a film studio puts out a terrible sequel to your favorite movie, or, say, a snack company releases some weird new chip flavor under a famous brand, what's the worst outcome? It's just disappointment. You wasted $10 and a couple of hours. But in the medical world, confusing a medication is a serious health hazard. The stakes are profoundly different here, even if the marketing tactic is exactly the same.
Moving right along to Section 2, what are brand extensions?
A brand name extension in the pharmaceutical industry is the practice of using an established, trusted drug brand name for a new product, which often contains entirely different active ingredients. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the new product might treat a completely different symptom, yet it wears the exact same uniform as the drug you already know and trust. Companies are essentially transferring the trust you have in drug A straight over to drug B.
Let's break down this visual comparison. Over on the left, we've got Original Brand X, which contains Formula A. Maybe it's just a simple painkiller. But on the right, we have Brand X Plus, or maybe Brand X Extra Strength, containing Formula B. That is a completely different chemical composition. It could be a decongestant mixed with a sleep aid. A simple suffix like plus or extra can completely mask the fact that the actual chemical compound going into your body has radically changed. In fact, it's pretty common for a single popular cold brand to have over a dozen different variations sitting on the shelf, all with completely different chemical makeups.
Now, looking at this from a totally neutral business perspective, the logic is undeniably sound. Building a new brand from scratch is incredibly expensive and honestly super risky. Why spend millions convincing the public to trust a brand new name when you already have one that they keep right there in their medicine cabinets? By extending a successful brand, pharmaceutical companies are simply executing highly efficient marketing. They are capitalizing on brand loyalty and trust to efficiently introduce new solutions to the market.
This brings us to a more serious topic. Section 3, the risk of confusion.
I want you to put yourself back in the shoes of that rushing, exhausted patient we talked about earlier. Here is the step-by-step anatomy of a medication error. Step 1, you trust a familiar brand name because, well, it's helped you before. Step 2, you quickly grab the extension off the shelf. Maybe the box is the exact same color but just has a tiny word like severe added to it, and you assume it's basically the same thing. Step 3, you ingest an entirely different active ingredient than your body was actually prepared for.
And that forces us to ask a very serious question. What happens when the active ingredient changes, but the name stays the exact same? It's this exact scenario that has caused a growing chorus of doctors and pharmacists to raise a massive red flag.
The health risks associated with these mix-ups are genuinely severe. You aren't just wasting money here. First, you're taking the wrong active ingredient, introducing a chemical your body didn't even need. Second, you are missing the actual needed medication, meaning your original illness just continues untreated. Third, and definitely most dangerously, you risk unexpected adverse reactions like overdosing if you're mixing it with other meds or triggering severe allergies. So the crucial point is that brand loyalty can inadvertently lead to self-harm when the ingredients change under the radar. Let's move into Section 4, under the regulatory scanner.
As recent reports outline, regulatory bodies are now putting this practice strictly under the scanner. It's a major collision, really. On one side, you have standard business practices designed to maximize reach, and on the other, you have the fundamental mandate of regulators, which is to prioritize public health oversight and ensure that medical packaging is as clear and foolproof as possible.
Regulators are pushing back hard against these pharmaceutical marketing strategies based on a few core concerns. They're citing widespread patient confusion. They are incredibly concerned about overlapping dosages, where patients accidentally double dose because the similar packaging obscures the actual strength of the drug. They're also tracking rising adverse side effects directly linked to these mix-ups. And fundamentally, they are calling out the complete lack of clear, prominent ingredient differentiation on the front of the boxes.
Let's move to and see how this builds across the timeline of regulatory oversight. In the past, there was near total marketing freedom, meaning companies could branch their brand names almost infinitely. Presently, we're in a phase of growing regulatory scrutiny, where health agencies are aggressively monitoring error reports and issuing warnings. And looking to the future, this momentum points toward potential strict naming rules, where companies might actually be legally forced to distinctly separate their branding if the active pharmaceutical ingredients change.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, what it means for you.
The reality is that this whole collision of business practice and public health oversight lands right inside your medicine cabinet. While the regulators and the corporations are battling it out in boardrooms over packaging laws and brand trademarks, the ultimate responsibility for safety currently falls squarely on the consumer. You really cannot rely solely on a recognized logo to keep you safe anymore.
So I want to leave you with a really clear, simple defense mechanism to protect yourself. Step 1, physically look past the massive, colorful font of the brand name. Step 2, flip that box over and read the tiny print of the active ingredients carefully. Ensure it is exactly the chemical you actually intend to take. And Step 3, if you are ever unsure, just ask the pharmacist. They are trained specifically to catch these subtle differences that marketing teams design to blend in.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core tension of modern consumer healthcare. We all want simplicity, but safety absolutely requires vigilance. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Next time you reach for a trusted brand in a moment of sickness, will you pause to check the ingredients, or will you just trust the name? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Stay informed, stay healthy, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.